Good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Middle Age Gaming Podcast, the number one show for people just like yourselves who don't have a lot of time to game, but who want to spend some time getting to know something that's going on in the gaming industry. Today, we are just back with Adam and myself. Antoine is still on holiday, though he will be back next week, Wednesday. So today, as we mentioned last week, or I don't think we mentioned last week, today we're talking about a game, Frozen Flame, which is available on Steam in early access and not on PlayStation. Is that correct, Adam?
Not to my, yeah, as far as I know, it's only on Steam currently.
So it's a very cool, very interesting game. If you're interested in it, maybe it's on your wish list, maybe it's seen a video somewhere, please stick around to about midway of the show and we will get to talking about that. Primarily, Adam's going to fill us in because he's, as usual, has done the amazing job of researching everything. But before we get into that, Adam, what have you been playing this week despite still being super busy?
I played a little bit of No Man's Sky while I was trying to get into connections with you on Saturday. We had a little bit of a snafu there. I don't know what happened, but what while I was trying to plug in my audio jack, it would recognize that my headphones were in, and then it would switch it to headphone mode, but then it would import the audio through the USB for some reason. And so Kriyan could hear my PlayStation that was being streamed into the computer, but he couldn't hear me, and it took us a long time to figure it out. So finally, what I ended up doing, and we didn't have enough time to actually play at that point, but I've discovered recently, my cord's not long enough to show you, but if you have a controller, I'm using my DS5 from the PlayStation. I have some extra ones. So I'm using that as an external, what do you call, audio card, and it works really, really well. So I'm actually talking to you through a DS5 right now because on my main computer that I'm using today, actually my external audio card broke, but this is working pretty well. So yeah, played a little bit there. Other than that, mostly been just kind of keeping up with my Near Reincarnation and played a little bit of Final Fantasy 14 because we had the what is it called? I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's one of the events. It's one of their holidays that they do. It's like a midsummer holiday that they do every year. So I did that event, and yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. What did you do on No Man's Sky?
I just kind of ran around. I haven't gotten any farther in the story, quote unquote story, but I have been just kind of exploring the planet that I was currently on. I have a base there, so I kind of built that up, and then was mostly just exploring that for resources, saving up some money. So I got some money, and found if you can and you find the buried, what they call it, buried technology. You can, if you dig that stuff up, it'll give you the, what are they called? I can't remember the name now, but they're the things that allow you to buy upgrades. So I just amassed like 50 of those and then went
Oh my
to,
god, how much did you play?
not that much. They're just all over the place. They are literally everywhere. And so you can just buy tons of these things. So I amassed like 50 of those, and then I just took it to the Space Anomaly and bought a bunch of the upgrades for building materials. So, some of the new walls and stuff. So I can build slightly nicer, better looking bases. So I haven't progressed any in the story, but I did do that. And I discovered finally, because we did not know how to get Quicksilver. We're like, how do you get this? And apparently you can get that by doing missions, but I can't access those missions yet. So I'm assuming we have to get further along in kind of the quote unquote story to access those missions. And then they do daily missions that you can get some Quicksilver, and they do weekly missions that you can get a bigger chunk of it. So once we
Do
hit
you mean
that, I'll be doing that.
Paraffinium?
No, paraffinium is one of the elements.
But what is Quicksilver for?
It's a currency. So they have three forms
Oh,
of currency. They have units, which are you can use to buy. Uh, Units can be used to buy most things, like, for example, ships from other people. You can buy elements from the terminal, and then you can get nanites, and nanites are used to buy upgrades, like upgrades for your
exosuit.
exosuit or your multi-tool. And then you can get Quicksilver, and Quicksilver is for all the cosmetic stuff, like the extra heads or the capes or all that sort of thing. Vapor trails on your ship and what.
Okay. So I think Quicksilver must be. Is it not through the sphere that you go there to
Yeah,
get
the
the?
sphere is where you go, is where you spend it. Yeah, so you have to go
Oh, the
there,
sphere
and
is the
then
expanded.
yeah, you go to the sphere. They have a terminal right in the front, and then you can go to that terminal and you can pick up missions. So I looked it up online. You can pick up missions, and they have one a day that you can do, but they will keep a backlog of three, so you don't have to play every day. You could play like say every 3 days and clear all three at a time. And if you don't play for 4 days, the first one would be gone. So it's the three most recent. So you do that, and then you can do your mission. You come back, you turn it in, and you get these Quicksilver units, which you can use to buy cosmetic stuff.
So Quicksilver is only for cosmetic.
Mostly cosmetic. I mean, it's some of the things are like, for example, if you have a certain amount, you can get a organic freighter and stuff like that. So like some of the special ships and stuff like that. But mostly for the cosmetic stuff like the extra heads, capes, certain decorative items that you can put in your bases. So
I mean, since you're talking about it, like, what's your take on? Uh, oh my god, I forgot the name of the company, but the No Man's Sky company keep pushing out these updates after however many years. It's been a long time, right?
Hello
So I
Games.
mean, yeah, Hello Games. God, I should remember that. But like, what do you think they've been doing this? Like, what's the end goal? I mean, where are they getting the funding? I guess No Man's Sky did make a ton of money, so so I guess it's not a funding issue. Like, what's their goal for keep pushing out these updates free for anyone who owns the game? Not to mention, No Man's Sky has been on sale periodically everywhere, right? For forever. I believe No Man's Sky is coming to the Switch or is out of the Switch already as well. So, like, why?
I think in this case, I think No Man's Sky is kind of is a legitimate example of a passion project. I mean, they have a very small team, and so if they make all this money, they don't have to use as much of it because there aren't as many people to distribute it between, so they can kind of amass it in the company and then slowly trickle it out. So yeah, I don't think money is an issue in that sense. I think this really is for them just a passion project that they really love. I mean, what was it? They had that flood early on in development, and they lost everything, and they had to start over basically. And obviously it got overhyped, and that was PlayStation's fault. But then was it Sean Murray? Is that the guy who runs it? He,
Yes,
he kind of
sure.
ran with it, and he was kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can totally do all these things. And I think it was one of the things where he wanted to be able to do all these things, and he wanted it to be not just him, but all of them wanted it to be this wonderful thing. And I think for them, it's just yeah, it's fun for them. I think they enjoy doing that sort of thing, and I don't think it's as much for profit as it is, like, hey, we want to make something that's really cool, and we're gamers ourselves. This is what we would want, and so we're going to create that for other people. The money's already there, so we don't have to worry about a paycheck. Let's just have fun and do what we want. I think that's probably the motivation behind it. At least that's how it feels to me, just looking at what they've done with it. I mean, I saw a picture and it had all the updates next to each other, and I mean, there's just a ton of updates that they've made, and yeah, but they've pretty much now reached all the promises that they made. I mean, there are a few left that they haven't had, but like I don't think, like, I think they still use skyboxes, which was one thing that they got kind of called out on early on, but yeah, I think they've mostly. Yeah, I think they just feel like we have a reputation. This is what we want to do. Let's do it. As opposed to kind of what we were talking about with indies last time, right? Where, or was it 2 times ago, with AAA studios, you've got a lot to lose. So you need to take the safe bet. You need to make sure you're going to profit off this. You need to make sure you're going to make money. With them, they're a small group. They've already got their money. So, you know, the motivation isn't to make more money. The motivation is to make a good game.
That makes sense. Okay.
My opinion.
Cool. No, no, and I mean, I agree with everything you said. So moving on to my games, I have been playing the usual trio. I just played It Takes Two yesterday with our friend Hans, and it was pretty fun. It is definitely much longer than A Way Out, because I've been playing A Way Out with my younger brother, and A Way Out apparently is like 6 hours, and It Takes Two is like 10 hours. But It Takes Two definitely feels much longer for pretty much the same price point. All these games going pretty well. I can definitely see how It Takes Two builds on A Way Out, and that they've sort of amplified the cooperative mechanics and just made the game look much better. More co-op stuff, much better story in a sense, more fun and more lighthearted in a way, kind of. Um, but then, for the most part, I've been enjoying Far Cry 6, so I have stopped Switch gaming altogether, back on that PC bandwagon. And oh my god, I, I just love Far Cry 6 so much. It's all the things I've sort of like missed with playing on a Switch, besides the 4K, and it looks really good, and the story, and like being in like a pseudo mini Cuba almost, and listening to salsa music while you burn fields of tobacco or poisonous tobacco, which is pretty cool. But yeah, lots of cool story things, lots of little funny moments. Um, Going pretty well. I don't see myself changing from that in the future. But yeah, that's all I've been doing on the gaming front as well. Just those three games. I did see Far Cry is on. When I say Far Cry, Elder Scrolls is finally on sale on Switch, which I did want to get. I don't know if I'll actually get it though, but we'll have to see about that. And Ghostwire Tokyo as well. I wanted to see that. Looks kind of scary though, but I might want to give that a go. But yeah, that is it from me. Any questions or thoughts, Adam?
So, did you play Far Cry 5?
I played all the Far Cry's,
Oh,
going
okay.
back to the ones in the 2000s.
Okay, because I know Antoine's kind of complaint was that Far Cry 6 was too much like Far Cry 5, and if you'd played one, there was no point in playing the other. That it was a good game, but if you'd played 5, there was no point in playing 6.
It's definitely one of those things where if you are a big story person, the story is very much similar. I mean, all the Far Cry's have been like revenge stories almost, and this is just the same. Something bad happens, you have to, you know, take your revenge out on this bad person. That's all it is. But if like for me, the story is not such a big a deal. It's just like the characters are so well acted. Like there are some famous Latino voice actors in the actual game that you probably recognize from. Um, there's the show. Oh my god, with America Ferrera. I can't remember what it is, but
Ugly
there's a
Betty. The only
yes,
show
Ugly
I know her
Betty.
from. That's literally the
Yeah,
only show I know her in.
Ugly Betty. There's another one which is something about a virgin, something or the other. It's on
Oh, Jane
Netflix.
the Virgin or something like that?
Yeah, Jane the Virgin. There's the comedy series as well with some famous Cuban actors and actresses. Basically, if you've watched anything Spanish related comedy in the last 10 years, you'll recognize some of those voices. Um, like there are lots of famous people. It's pretty funny as well, and there's Danny Trejo's in there as well as like a extra special side mission.
Of course.
And yes, of course, because the main character in Far Cry 6 is Danny, and you're like the guy who's like, oh my god, two Dannys are better than one Danny. I'm like, oh sure, whatever.
He's in
And they did
everything
like
though.
and they did like a Rambo side mission as well, which I haven't done. Uh, but yeah, there's just like lots of little stuff, and then there's a sausage dog
Yeah.
in and it's called chorizo. I'm like, oh my god. The pet stuff is really really cool, but I have not taken advantage of that. I'm just like, I don't really need a pet, but there's some cool pets. Like you start off with an alligator, that's pretty funny. But there's just like lots of little like side things that are like make you like, oh my god, this world is so much fun. Uh, there's like the idea of like you get homemade silencers, and if you study Spanish at all, it's also even more interesting. Or if you know a little bit of Spanish, uh, the way Spanish people speak and some of the bad language as well is pretty interesting. It's just really fun, relaxing game with lots of choices. So as much as people hate on Ubisoft for being repetitive, like if you're somebody who likes a living world, this game is just awesome. Uh, if you're somebody who's like, oh my god, I need innovation, I need something new, I need like new mechanics and stuff. There's actually a fair amount of new stuff in this game. Like for me, I like the like in previous Far Cry's, right? If you had a silencer, you could just go crazy, right? But in this Far Cry, like until you get later on in the game, silencers heat up, and then if you keep firing silenced rounds all the time, your silencer eventually becomes unsilenced, like it would happen in real life with a poor quality silencer. Um, so it's that's interesting as well. So you can't just go buck wild, silently killing everybody in the game. Uh, there's like supply drop missions. There's like like where you have to go from one point and you have to capture these supply drops, but you have to get there, and then there's spike traps on the road, so there's no more crazily driving. Like oh my god, there's a spike trap coming up. I have to go around this, and then you have to drive through the jungle. You get to ride horses as well, and and you have to capture these checkpoints. The checkpoint missions are no longer like the first checkpoints; are smaller. There's just lots of interesting stuff, and the way you upgrade your weapons. It's just there's so much stuff. I could talk about this forever. Actually, I could make this the middle age gaming Far Cry show, but no.
No, I might have to try it. I haven't played a Far Cry yet, so I don't think I would
You've not
have.
played any like one to
I've
six at
never
all.
played any of the Far Cries. No,
Oh, okay.
I've seen them, but I've
It
never played
depends
them.
on your mood. Like for me, this was like the perfect game for the perfect mood.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying because Antoine was saying there's no point in playing the sixth one if you've played the fifth because there's it's the same game, but I've never played the fifth, so I'm like, okay, so for me it would be great.
I can see you like if you have some sort of connection, if you like salsa music or bachata or something like that, you might like this one better than the first one. But if you're like, because the first one is it's like set in America and with like Midwest America, so maybe you might enjoy the accents and the cultural references in that sense.
Grew up with that
Yeah,
stuff. Let's
yeah,
have something
exactly,
exotic to me.
exactly. Okay, guys, so this is it for games that Adam and I had been playing. We are now going to move on to a topic which is highlighting an indie, right? So as usual,
Kind of an indie, yeah. I
yeah,
guess I've
kind of
never heard of the
indie.
people who make it, so I'm assuming it's an indie.
Yeah. Developer Dreamside Interactive.
Yep.
Sounds like DreamWorks almost. But yes, so as usual, right? If you want to support this game, you can wishlist it, right? Wishlist help, which I did not know until 2022. So please go ahead and wishlist the game. You can also, usually games have subscriber lists, so you can subscribe to their newsletter where they can get in contact with you and sort of push stuff out. This is also another metric they can take to VCs and other companies and say, hey, we have 20,000 people on our subscriber list. We have 150,000 wish lists. These are things that can allow them to get more money. And especially if you like this kind of game, you want more of this kind of game, this really helps. So, Adam, take it away. Introduce us to Frozen Flame.
Yes, so Frozen Flame is developed by Dreamside Interactive and it is published by Raven Age Games, which again I had not heard of them either, but apparently they have a few games and I looked through their list of games that they already published and I didn't recognize any of them, so I guess they're relatively small. They're expecting to release this game on October. Wait, it was expected. I got this wrong. Does this say 2019? It says expected or release date 2019, but it's supposed to be fall this year. So I'm assuming I wrote that wrong. It should be October 2022, unless it did get delayed. I don't know why I wrote that. But it is supposed to be released this fall, and the genre is a survival RPG. So what you're basically doing is you're in this world, and dragons used to be in this world. They're gone now. Not quite sure if they became corrupted or they left or whatnot. I didn't look that much into the story. There's not that much information just yet. But anyway, the dragons are gone, and you're kind of the descendants of the gods or the people of the time and you're trying to survive in this world and you're trying to destroy these or defeat these things called the faceless, which are kind of these demonic entities. And it's kind of interesting. I'm really big into survival games and stealth games. Those seem to be my kind of bread and butter, I suppose. There's not too much stealth here, but it is a survival game, and I do enjoy construction, and there's quite a bit of construction in this. So if I had to compare this to another game, I think a lot of people would look at it and immediately say Valheim is what it would probably be compared to. I haven't played Valheim yet. I have it. It's downloaded. I think we're going to stream it at some point, but right now we're streaming No Man's Sky. So we will be getting to that eventually. But a game that I have played that this kind of reminds me of, despite a different perspective, is Tribes of Midgar. Have you ever played that game?
I've heard of it, never played it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I've played Tribes of Midgar with my friends. It was a lot of fun. You have different classes. You can upgrade your classes. You all kind of specialize in different things, and in that game, basically, you have a almost kind of a time limit. What you're trying to do is you're trying to defeat the boss before the eternal winter. And then once the world becomes eternal winter, it gets significantly more difficult. In this game, the world is already, I think, kind of in this eternal winter kind of thing going on. But it's similar where you're going to have to fight against the cold. And so at least when I played it, they had a demo. I look now, there is no demo now, but I'm not sure if that there's no demo anymore or if I timed out on my demo and I can't play anymore. I'm not quite sure. So yeah, so I've played a little bit, and during the day you can run around, you're pretty much okay. At night you can get a little bit cold, so if you can find some fires spread out around the map or build your own fire, you can kind of warm yourself up and survive that way. Ultimately, you're supposed to, as you can see if you're watching this on video, that you're supposed to build your own kind of base of operations, and then you can hang out there for the night, and then that way you'll be able to survive the cold and protect your gear because anything you build will deteriorate over time uh, when out in the wild exposed to the elements. So by building a shelter, you can actually preserve some of your stuff longer. So for instance, if you build a workbench and you just build it out in an open field, it'll last for a while and then it'll eventually collapse because the environment destroys it. But if you have a base, it'll last much longer. And so yeah, it just seemed to really appeal to me because it is a multiplayer kind of survival game. And the people who made it, they were talking about how they looked at other games like Ark or Rust and how those games could be a lot of fun. But one of the big problems that they kind of had with that was that it becomes very much about PvP. And you can and the world is perpetual. And it's the same in this in that the world is going to be perpetual, but one of the problems that they didn't really like in those other games is you can build a base, but if you're not logging in all the time, somebody else can come in and just destroy your base and way. So if you're not constantly defending your stuff or your stash or whatever, it can be taken away very easily. So to counter that, what they've done is, and I'm looking at in an interview they did from 2017. So maybe 2019 was their original release date and they postponed it. But in the original interview they did back in 2017, they actually had three different modes. And so they had the three different modes, and the one was the Middle Lands, and in the Middle Lands you can't PK, but you can loot other people's houses. So you can't really destroy their home, but you can try to break down a door, get inside, steal some of their loot. And then they had the Lower Lands, which was the dungeons where you want to work together because otherwise, you're not going to survive. And then they had the floating islands, where you have like these big castles in the sky, and there anything goes. So you can PK or player kill all you want. You can destroy everybody's everything, but they have higher level resources. And when I played the demo, I think that's changed because when I played the demo, there were actually three modes that you could select from, but currently in the demo, there was only one mode you could select. So, uh, in that mode, I couldn't even do co-op in it. So I don't know if it was not available, or if there was something for whatever reason, something was wrong with mine. But when I played it, I couldn't do co-op, unfortunately, so I couldn't test it out. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that, they want you to be able to choose. Do I want to make it a little more PvP oriented, and have that challenge, or do I want to make it a little more adventure with friends and other people? So the way the game is supposed to work is there are supposed to be multiple servers, and you can go into a server. The game is procedurally generated, so each server is going to be slightly different in the way things are mapped out and located, and you can move from server to server if you want. So if you get tired of your server, you can explore all over the world and see those sort of things. Do quests with friends. So yeah, it was kind of fun when I played it. I really enjoyed it, and there were one thing that I thought was really great was I kind of have I suppose what you might call an outdated graphics card at this point. I have a GTX 1060, and I was playing this game on ultra settings, and everything was maxed out, and that was the default. Was it was saying these are your recommended specs. So the fact that this can run on a 1060 at the highest specs is really great because basically, if you have, anybody should be able to play this game. It's not going to be a high-end, graphically intensive game. So I think that's really, really good. I think that's awesome. I like the idea of base building with friends. I think that's really, really cool. Being able to visit these different servers and stuff, so you can, your friends can have their server, you can have your server, and it's all procedurally generated. So everywhere you go and every time you move, things are going to be different. So it has a lot of replayability there. Was it Tribes of Midgar? Is kind of the same idea, where each time you play the game, gameplay itself is going to be the same, but the world is going to be different. So resources might be easier to find or more difficult to find. So, but there are some things that I kind of had a problem with, and it wasn't in the game itself as much as in kind of the design. I know this is a demo and it's not on full release yet, so apparently this game is actually not coming out in fall. Early access is beginning in fall, so it's not in early access right now, but it will be going into early access in the fall supposedly. But one thing I would like to see them improve on is I would love to see more of a tutorial. There's not really a tutorial. They kind of throw you in at the very beginning, and it's like press this button to attack, press this button to block, and that was basically it. And then they're like, all right, great, go. And in a way that was kind of cool, but there are apparently a lot of features that I was not aware about. I was looking at other videos after my demo wore out, which Korean has informed me that, in fact, the demo is no longer available. I think they were doing part of an event. I think there was a Steam event for like demos or something like that, and that's what they were releasing it for. But apparently you can dodge roll. I didn't, or dodge. I didn't know you could dodge. I didn't know that was a thing. That was never told that that was a thing. Um, in the other guy's thing, one of the things that he was complaining about was that the dodge button and the jump button are the same button. So sometimes you want to dodge, but you just jump. And other times you want to jump, but you dodge. And so, they should probably put those on two different buttons.
How are you playing this? Like on a controller or with the keyboard
I
and
played it with a
mouse?
mouse and keyboard. It has controller support, but then when I used my controller, nothing would happen. So I couldn't get my controller to work. So I was playing it with mouse and keyboard, and it was working just fine. Mouse and keyboard. So I would like to see how it plays with a controller, but for whatever reason, it wouldn't recognize my controller when I was pressing buttons and stuff. Nothing was happening. So
And is that a typical, like, is that generally just a Sony problem, or is that just
I don't know because I've never had that problem before. Like it just like I press up, I press down, nothing happens. So I don't know if it was a controller problem, but I think it was just for whatever reason it was not recognizing that I had it because Steam has DS5 support now, so it shouldn't have been an issue. And when I was going into Steam, I can do all the settings and stuff like that, and it recognized the controller and everything. But then when I go into the game, it goes mouse and keyboard, and the next option over is controller, and I go in there, and it says there are very few options. It just says like invert x-axis, invert
so?
y-axis, and that was it. But
Yeah, I think it
happened.
must be because I think the game still has to code in DS5 or PlayStation controller support, whereas like most games will do, they have the SDK for the Xbox controller being part of Windows.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that's why it's
maybe.
easy to do that. But I don't think PlayStation controllers, unfortunately, because I don't know why that is. I mean, that might be a story to sort of look into why Sony never gave Microsoft sort of or access, or maybe it just never happened. Who knows, to their controller so that you could have that built into Windows, so that you wouldn't. It's easy to integrate it into your game.
Yeah, I don't know. I have some emulators type things on my computer where I can, if I run that, it'll emulate the PS5 as an Xbox controller. Uh, so it'll have a virtual Xbox controller, but you're using your DS5 to control that. So it just basically remaps all the buttons and takes away the touchpad. Everything else is the same, but for whatever reason, it wasn't recognizing my controller at all. I just, I press up, I press down, nothing happened. So I don't really know. I don't know if it was one of those things where like maybe I need to plug in the controller after I started playing, or I didn't really play with it too long. I was just more into looking into the demo. But I would really like to see how this game plays with the controller, because there are a few things with the way the game controls. So obviously you have your WASD controls, and you put all your items on the numbers. And there are 3 classes, and each class has 3 abilities. And those abilities are on Z, X, and C. And there's a O or a C. My thing's the XG, I guess. No, that's C. Yeah. My keyboard is all rubbed off, so I'm like, oh no, I can't see the letters anymore. When I type, I know what they are, but when I'm looking at it now, I'm like, what letter is that? I don't know. But they're on Z, X, and C. You have an ultimate ability on F, and so it can be kind of, yeah, if you're trying to use the WASD and you want to use your ability, but you kind of have to take your fingers off of the control and then move them lower than they normally are. In most games that I've played, the abilities are on the numbers, so you know you're pressing and then you kind of move up higher. But here you have to kind of like move down lower to hit your abilities, and so that can make it kind of awkward. And also on my keyboard, I have like the shift is a little bit longer, so everything's kind of shifted to the right a little bit. So if I would go from my A button and move my finger directly down, I would often hit the shift button, which would be the sprint button. And then I'm not using my ability, and then I kind of have to actually look down physically at the keyboard to make sure I'm hitting the key. Um, so that was a bit of an issue. If you have an MMO mouse or one of those mouses with all those buttons, though, you should have no problem. Even if you kind of have these, I guess they're pretty standard now, mouse buttons that have the 2 buttons on the sides. That would even do you well, because you have 3 abilities, so you could map 1 ability to each button, and then 1 ability to clicking the mouse wheel. And I think just setting that up would make it so much easier. But I don't think I remember seeing any keybinds in the game. So I'm sure by the time the final game is released, they might have that. But at least in this version of the demo, I don't remember seeing any being able to switch the keybinds there. So yeah, but so I would like to see maybe a little more controller customization and what you could do there. I would love to see that. Uh, hopefully I can get the controller to work if they release another demo. I would also like to see, they have 3 classes, but you can't multi-class. You pick one class, and you can switch your classes, I'm pretty sure. But each class, like I said, has 3 abilities, and then you have 3 passives that can be upgraded 3 times. There's no tech trees. It's just straight upgrades. You just choose which thing you want to upgrade, and you can. I think you can switch classes, but you can't mix and match abilities. So you couldn't say like, I want a guy who's an archer or a ranger, and he can do this like jump thing to access high areas, but then I also want to have that heal spell because that's super handy. If you want the heal spell, you have to go full mage. If you want the jump thing, you have to go full ranger. Um, which I guess kind of plays into the idea that you want to you want to work as a team. So I'm not so, I wouldn't say that I absolutely want cross class abilities, but I would like to see more classes, because as of now, there's only 3, and it's kind of, and without tech trees, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's not super exciting. So I would like to see them expand on the class system, either have more classes, or maybe if they had more of a tech tree, things you could customize a little bit more. So, if you want to be kind of a stealthy ranger who works more with traps, or do you want to be more of a ranged ranger, or that sort of thing. Personally, for me, that would make it a little bit more fun. So if I could see something like that, that would make me really happy. And yeah, the other thing would be I'd love to see a proper tutorial, because when I was playing, one of the problems that I had was you're thrown into the world. I came out of the starting area, and there's a guy right there, and he's like, do this quest. And I'm like, okay, so I do that quest. And then it says, okay, you've now unlocked a few crafting items. You can craft an axe, you can craft a pickaxe. And so, that's simple enough. But then it's like, okay, later on it says, okay, you can craft. He also gave me some, I guess they call it like magic cloth or whatever. And he's like, okay, here's like 3 of them. You can make more, but you're going to need a sort of like magic. uh, sort of magic item because it's magic cloth. And so I was like, okay, well, where do I find that item? And I'm looking all over the place and I can't find that item anywhere. And I'm like, I have no idea where to get this so I can make these things. If I want to make a sword, I need a magic log. Well, I can't find a magic log. And what it was is that sometimes when you cut down trees, you get a magic seed. You use the magic seed to grow a magic plant. After you grow a magic plant, you can put these little magic essences in the plant, which you get from defeating these little goblin type dudes. You put those magic essences in the plant, and then the plant will grow like the item, the crystal that you need to do these other things. And I had no idea that I was supposed to do that. So I was playing for a really long time, and I'm just running around with this axe and my basic gear. And then on a whim, I was like, "What is this magic plant thing?" And so I did that, and then finally, I was like, "Oh," But this is like hours into the game that maybe 2 hours after play that I finally figured out how to do that. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I don't have to use my tools as weapons anymore. I can make legitimate weapons." But there was no demo that kind of showed you how to do this base building kind of thing or how to build on that. So having some sort of tutorial for that would be really useful. And maybe again, this might just be because it was a demo and in the main game they might have something a little more intensive on showing you the ropes and how to play and that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll see that.
I mean, like a little bit of pushback on the tutorial side. Like, isn't that a typical trope in these sort of survival building rogue-ish light games where you're supposed to figure this out, just sort of like Terraria or even like Minecraft, right? Minecraft doesn't sort of give you a tutorial. Well, at least when I played it a decade ago.
They don't. But I know for Minecraft it's one of those things where like everybody just uses guides. Like yeah, there's no tutorial in it, but they do give you guides. But I mean, at the very least, it was one of those things where it's like it's kind of the way you get these items. It was a bit, like you have to grow the plant, and then you have to get the seed, use the seed to build a plant. You build the plant, really. Build the plant, put these things in the plant, and then they come out, and they're these things you need. Um, if they just even came out and said, like, you need the plant to do this, and I could figure out how to do the process, but, it was just like, you need this item, and we're not gonna tell you how to get that item, and you just kinda have to experiment. Like I said, for the longest time, I was like, "I have no idea how to get this item. I'm looking for it." At least if they could even just label things as, craftable or findable, then I wouldn't be wasting my time searching all over the map for this thing when it's like, "No, you need to craft this somehow." Uh I think that would even, because then it's like, oh, okay, I should figure out a way to craft this. Whereas, a magic log, I'm like, okay, do I need to cut down a tree for that? Do I need to defeat a boss to get it? Like, where do I get this magic log from? And it's like, no, you need to craft a magic log. So I think just being able to, just tell you like where these things, kind of give you an idea of how these things are acquired. It would give you a little more direction into where to go. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see a lot of people wanting to be like, no, don't tell me that stuff. Just let me figure it out on my own. I could definitely see that being an appeal to some people, and it was fun for me. I really enjoyed it, but and if I'm being honest, I didn't mind it that much. But it was one of those things where I'm like, if I'm looking at it from a gameplay point of view, I could definitely see if I'm playing with my friends and we don't know what we're doing. I could definitely see people being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to put this down and play something else instead. So having a little more guidance, I think, would be beneficial in some ways. So, because there is quite a bit you can do in it. So,
So for you, Adam, is this a buy on early access, wait until it releases? So early access is supposed to be a year, right? So potentially October 2023. So buy an early access. Is it a pre-order or is it wait for sale?
this is kind of complicated. I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm very tempted to get this on early access. And I've never had an early access game. No, that's not true. There was one game I had access. I don't remember what it was though. But yeah, this would be. I'd be very tempted to get this on early access, and it's one of those things where I'm kind of on the fence whether I would do it, unless if I have friends doing it. Absolutely, 100%. If I because my friends and I, we tend to play games, and we were playing Tribes of Midgar for a long time, and we've been doing Apex for a long time. And this is definitely something I'm going to bring up with them and be like, "Hey guys, we should maybe check this out because this could be a lot of fun." Um, so yeah, this is for me is definitely something. 100% of my friends are in on it, and if they're not, 50%, 60%, yeah.
So would
So
this be like also I guess a secondary question for you? Would this be on PC or console? Like would you get this on console and then play with PC friends, or if this is only on console, you just get it on PC? Like
give me a s
what would your
if it's only on PC, I'll get it on PC. If
okay.
it comes out on console, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, and the reason is because it's really gonna kinda depend on how much they're adding by the final version. Also too, because console doesn't usually get early access stuff. So it might be one of those things where I'm like, if I wanna do it early access, I have to do it on PC because it's not gonna come out on console until it's the full release. Like, for instance, I don't think PUBG came out on console until it was officially released. Uh, Maybe it did, but yeah, so in that case, yeah, it's hard to say. But then this is the game, like, with the way the graphics are and simple enough, when you customize your character, it's something like there's like 5 faces, 5 hairstyles, very basic. This game could definitely do with a mod scene, I think. If this game gets a mod scene, I think it could be really, really popular. Uh, and so I might just be tempted to do it on PC purely for the mod scene, if there is one. If it looks like there's not gonna be one, for instance, I saw people talking about, uh, Starfield, and they're like, "Why does Bethesda still use this dated creation engine? Why aren't they upgrading to Unreal 5 or whatever?" And one of the things that people point out as well, because the creation engine is extremely easy to mod for, Unreal 5, if they did that, it would not be easy to mod for, and you'd lose a big chunk of your mod scene because it's just so much harder to do that. With the creation engine, it's designed to be easily moddable. And so, yeah, depending on how easily this game is modded, and again, it's also going to depend on how popular it ends up being. Because I mean, it could be easily moddable, but if you don't have the crowd behind it, then it's just kind of dead in the water. So, but yeah, I would definitely get this early access, and I would have to see how it controls with the controller. I would probably want to play a demo, make sure that my controller works on the PC, see how well it controls with the controller. Because as I was playing with the mouse, it was kind of like, oh, this does feel like it's kind of geared more for mouse and keyboard than controller. But I'd have to see on how it works on controller, and because
All right, what about potential price points? Let's go for early access and full release. What would you be expect to pay, or what would you be willing to pay?
I'm horrible when it comes to thinking in terms of money value and time value. uh, I wouldn't say this would be a full price game. I would say maybe, I don't know,
So early
20 to
access price
$40.
first.
I don't know, 20 to 40 US, I guess.
So 40 for full price, for full release, I should say.
Yeah, 40 or 50 for full release would be my assumption. I don't really know. Like, I literally have, if people ask me for like, oh, what's the monetary value of this? I have no idea. Even my own time. If somebody's like, oh, how much, if you spend 2 hour, if you want to finish this project or whatever, how much would I pay you for it? If somebody was like, wanted an art commission or something, and they're like, oh, how much do you charge? I'd be like, I don't even know how much my time. I don't know how much my time is worth. Um, so I'll either go really high, or I go really low. I'm horrible at coming up with good estimates of these sort of things. So I have no idea what price range we're looking at here. Uh, yeah, and if depending on how much content comes out in the final game and looking at how big it is, the demo when I played it felt kind of small, but looking at the videos and stuff, the game looks really, really huge. So depending on that, yeah, I could see it being a full price game. But yeah, I don't know. I would assume in my mind, I just feel like I would say like maybe $40 US, maybe 20. I think it also kind of depends on. I think I think when you're a big game like a AAA studio, if you are a Monster Hunter or Fortnite, or that level of game where you get that recognition, you can charge full price and people will pay for it because they already know what they're getting. They already know the value of what the game is or whatever. With a game like this, because it's a small indie dev and probably a lot of people haven't heard of them, if you release it at full price, people are like, well, that's a risk, but I could spend that exact same amount of money on something that I know I'm going to like versus taking a risk with that money. So I feel like maybe if I was an indie dev personally, I'd probably want to, I guess the word would be devalue, but lower the price of my own game. Even if I feel like it's a full price game, I'd probably want to lower the price just because I would feel like that would encourage more people to give it a shot. And then after I had kind of a reputation behind me, then I could start releasing games at full price. But the thing is you want to get that recognition first, and I think that recognition has a certain amount of value uh, as well. So yeah, I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is I have zero clue what would be a appropriate value for it, but I personally would be willing to pay, 40, 20, even $60 US. So personally.
You hit it on the nail. The nail on the head is usually I feel a lot of early access games roughly priced in about 20 US, and then as each early access, because Steam allows them to change the price as early access goes on, and there's more content, and then sort of culminating with the final release being $40 or so. And again, with an indie studio, I think $40. I don't see too many games doing 50 because there is that sort of mental connection with $50 and $60 as a full price AAA game. So I think you're probably dead on the money when it comes to $40 next year October as a full release
Yeah.
price.
Yeah, I think also too with early access, it's one of those things where just the term itself, early access, just sounds like we're not done, you know, and you're not getting a full game yet. And I think for a lot of people, the idea of early access, the game's not finished. I'm basically in a way, I'm kind of helping you beta test in a lot of ways. I mean, maybe it's not a beta test. I don't know what comes after beta, delta. Like it's not an alpha, it's not a beta. Was it a delta? At this point, it might even be like a gamma or an omicron test or whatever. But it's one of those things where like the game isn't finished, so why would I want to pay full price for an unfinished product, right? So I think for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, if it's early access, it should be lower.
That makes sense.
That's
You
my
hit on a
mentality.
key point as well. Is the sort of idea of single player. Like, do you think this is going to be a game like Valheim in a sense, where Valheim is a wonderful game, people loved it, but Valheim is very hard to do single player. Um, do you think this is going to be like that? Do you think there's going to be any single player content at all, or will there be a possibility of single player?
I don't think it'll be hard to play it single player, and you absolutely can. But I think that this game is its bread and butter is going to be group content. I think they said servers can be up to 50 people. I don't know what the party system is. I was not able, like I said, to play multiplayer, so I don't know if you actually can band together as a party or if it's more that, you just go into the world, you see other people and you start interacting with them, but there's no like official party like you would have in most MMOs where, you join the same group because it is all just kind of in the overworld, so there's no real other than communication. I don't really think there'd be a huge advantage like you would in most games where it's like, oh, we can queue for a dungeon together or something. There's not that. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure how the party system would work, but I definitely think this game would be it'll be fun as a single player. I wouldn't mind playing it as a single player because, I enjoy also things like, building and whatnot, but definitely a lot more enjoyment you would get with the group. So I think this is like Valheim in that, where you're gonna have a lot more fun if you have other people with you. Unless, of course, you're like some sort of streamer who's like building, what was it, those guys that built that whole like luge system where you can sail a boat down from the top of a mountain using like bridges and stuff. Unless you're doing something like that and you're building it and you don't want other people wrecking your stuff. I definitely think that this game would be better group.
Nice.
Just because playing with friends is more fun.
It is, but I mean, I still find it hard as a middle-aged gamer. Like, I play with you once a week, hence once a week. I play with my brothers once a week. That leaves 4 days for personal gaming. And I mean, there are times where I feel like, oh my God, I just won a personal game, and you can't because you have 1 hour to game a day, or for like in your case, right? You get to sort of block a game sometimes, and there are other days where you don't get to game, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I find it hard, like as you get older, to say, okay, if I'm playing Valheim or I'm playing Frozen Flame with friends, right? You're dedicating days, or because I mean, if you play this once a week with your friends, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's doable or not, but I'd want to play this game like continuously, but at the same time, I'm like, I actually want to play my stuff, especially as a emotional gamer, right? I don't want to be stuck saying, okay, I have to play with James today because James and I are playing Frozen Flame, and actually I don't feel in the mood to play this. I want to shoot somebody, or I want to solve a puzzle, or I want to listen to a story, or I want to solve something, something like that. So I mean, that's why this sort of game, oh, this oriented game sort of doesn't appeal to me anymore. Coming on to 40 is just because I'm like, okay, this is it's a time sink, right?
It is. It is gonna be a time sink, and I think again that's one thing that kind of would appeal to me as well is that if you do have friends because things are done on servers, it's not like for instance in Tribes of Midgar, you have a host and the host has to load the game up and then you can load into the game. So if me and my friends were playing and we didn't finish, whoever was the host would just save the world, and then the next time we would just load up that world and then we would get invited back into it. But this is everything is done on servers. So, for instance, if you and I are playing, we can get together, and if I want to play on my own, I can go out and I can just do some harvesting, and I can uh, get materials, bring them back to our base, stick them all in the box or whatever. And then when we come back to play, we have all these materials. So if you have a group of friends and one person just really likes mining and whatnot, they can do that on their own time, stash all the materials in your guys' base. So when you come back, you don't have to spend all your time mining anymore because that one guy was having fun doing it on his own. Or, because you build a base, you could have, like, instead of saying, let's build one house, it's like, let's build a small little village. Everybody gets their own little house, and you can come in and build your house. And when you come back, your friends are all, wow, house looks great. Um, so you could definitely do it. Yeah. Kind of like what I've been doing in No Man's Sky on and off. It's like I'm not progressing further in the story, but I'm grabbing these nanites and picking up this stuff and getting pets and stuff. And yeah, I lost your audio. I can't hear you no more.
I was saying, like, you got so far. I mean, you're not ahead in terms of the story, but you're ahead in terms of resources.
Oh yeah. So when we get to the story, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna build a base now.
So it's just like, oh God, like by the time I catch up to 50 resource modules, 50 resource modules will take me like a good hour to get on my own.
Yeah. But I mean, but again, like that was the thing is I was just unlocking like more base building materials, and I don't know how much effort you put into base building. So I mean, yeah, it's like I can build more bases, but if you're not really super interested in that, does it put me ahead? It's like no, but you can just show up at my base and you can use all my materials and stuff like that. So, um, as far as I don't have the higher end, I haven't gone to planets. I haven't gone to new star systems with better resources, so I can buy, better stuff. So it gives me an advantage in that. But I mean, like you said, you don't really enjoy some of these things as much as I do, so I can focus on doing those things that you're probably like, I'm just going to skip over that anyway. You know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's you're right. As you're saying, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like you've gone down the aesthetic route, and when it comes to that sort of stuff, I'm not a huge person when it comes to aesthetics and building stuff. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, like for example, like if we're playing No Man's Sky or something like this, if you want to explore and I want to build, I build on my own time, and then when we play together, we can go out exploring, and you already have a base that you can return to and have all these nice things there, and it's like, oh, I need to use this refinery or this thing or that thing, and you don't have to spend our time together building that up. You just get access to it. So
That is cool.
yeah. So
Okay, and
yeah.
have you had any thoughts about next week?
No, but if Antoine's coming back, I think he should.
He
Um,
should.
but otherwise,
It's
no. I have a few games that when I was looking through, I didn't like. For instance, we've been trying to do uh, Kickstarter type stuff, and going through Kickstarter, I didn't really see anything. I saw maybe like two games that were kind of appealing to me, but not like super appealing. It was kind of like kind of interesting. But going through early access stuff, there seemed to be a lot more on there. I don't know. I just looking through Kickstarter, I saw like maybe 400 things, and then early access looked like there's like 1,000 things on Steam. So there's just so many more options. And then also too, I think on when I was going through Kickstarter, it's you're kind of filtering through. It's like, oh, okay, you have all the game stuff, but you also have like, oh, here's my dice company, and I'm like, oh, I'm not very. You're kind of filtering through all that, whereas on Steam, it's just 100%. Um, but yeah, either let Antoine decide, or maybe we can continue to look at maybe early access stuff, or what is it, Kickstarter stuff, or things that we're looking forward to. Um, but yeah, I think either of those could work.
very cool. I think let's do an early access because I would imagine once Antoine gets back, he'll probably be pretty busy. I mean, being away from work for 2 weeks, I'm sure that will keep him crazy busy. Oh my God, I just saw Temtem is on early access, and
Ah,
I know
yes,
you.
Temtem's on my wish list on PlayStation.
So I figure like
It's
that
early
is
access. That is on PlayStation. So
how is that? Because it's on early access on PC according to Steam.
been on PlayStation for a long time,
That is strange.
back since it was PS4,
Uh,
before the
uh,
PS5 even came out. Yeah, it's been on there for a while. So maybe they do early access on consoles on occasion.
I guess I would imagine because like PlayStation has like a set criteria, so I mean that sort of explains it in a sense. Ooh, I guess we've already talked about this kind of game. I was thinking about talking about V Rising. Antoine talked about My Time. I know what I'm going to talk about Grounded
Oh,
next
okay.
week.
All right.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look through and find something. And there's one thing that I will say that I do enjoy. Like, say, what did we talk about last week? I don't remember. Oh, yeah. So last week we had like our 3 games and stuff like that. And I will
Yes.
say that I definitely enjoyed this week considerably more, along with the Nine Souls week considerably more, because when I'm doing those, it's like, we're reviewing these games, but we're not even really quote unquote reviewing them because we haven't played them yet, right? We're kind of going off of expectations. But this had a demo. Demo's not up anymore, unfortunately. Maybe they'll bring one back, but I love being able to play a demo before I review games. So I'll probably look for something that has a playable demo and kind of report on how that went. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, you're a bit more flexible. Like for me, again, we come back to me being selfish. Like I having only 4 days to myself, I wouldn't want to use that to play a demo. I want to play something where I get to get into that feedback loop of, oh yes, snipe someone. In my current mood, would be shooting people. So yeah, no, I wouldn't want to sacrifice that. While I love A Way Out and It Takes Two and No Man's Sky, No Man's Sky more now than when I first started. We started playing
Oh,
it back when it
definitely.
first came out.
When I
Yeah.
first played it, it was kind of like, okay, this is fun. And now I'm like, every day I'm like, okay, I should play dot hack GU. And I'm like, I want to know man's sky.
See, I have this feeling like as we talk about it, as we play, I'm like, I could just do this instead, but I'm like, no, I should probably keep going with Far Cry.
Well, the demo's done with this one, so you couldn't play this even if you wanted.
Yes.
Hopefully they'll come out with a new demo though. I'm
I,
really
I would
hoping.
say they'll probably do it when it comes out in early access. There'll be like they'll re-release the demo with all the new content combined inside, so to give people an idea. All right, everyone, please don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/gamingage, GMINGAGED. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice. I personally am making a big push for the podcast because there's just so many podcasts coming out from people. The podcasting industry is still going to be that like 5-10 billion industry in 2024, right? So I think that is my personal big push. And I was just telling Adam, you might see some Facebook ads from us, probably highlighting something that Adam's done because he always has these really cool YouTube clips. Subscribe to us on YouTube, right? Hit that bell notification and hit the like button that pushes videos up on YouTube as well. Email us middleagegaming@middleagegaming2020@gmail.com. Those are all things that you should be doing, especially to help us. Share us on social media. Share our TikTok clips as well, right? You get one TikTok a week. We might try to do one every day. We'll see if that magical time ever happens. There might be more time. There is going to be more time because Adam is taking over something from that I used to do, starting from next week on a bi-weekly basis. So that will give me back a good 1 hour a week, maybe a bit more. So we'll see how that goes. But yep. Please share us, spread the love, and we will see you guys next week, where I will be talking about Grounded, a not so new early access game, but I think still something that deserves some attention. And we will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.